We lost two Batei Mikdashim, as you know, well known. Chacham seated here definitely know that. But the Ikar Beis HaMikdash, which really we relate to, of course, is the second Beis HaMikdash. Because if it hadn't been rebuilt, we wouldn't be mourning on the first one either. Right now, since we don't have the second one, we're mourning on the first one. But it's obvious that we have to really relate to Bayis Sheni, the second Bayis. Often said that Bayis Sheni was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, and that's the day we have to work on most. You've all heard that. Chavetz Chaim, by the way, relates Sinas Chinam to Lashon Hara strongly, so be able to work on Lashon Hara today. Asar B'Tevis itself, as much as I could see, is, as we said in the Slichas today, is Melech Bavel Samach, is a remembrance for what happened by Bayis Rishon. Okay? As I pointed out, Ezra and other things around this 3-day period related to Bayis Sheni. But Asar B'Tevis itself, I don't know that there was an Asar B'Tevis in Bayis Sheni. The Asar B'Tevis, as far as I know, is related to Bayis Rishon. Okay, but either way, it's definitely, on every Tainus, as I said, we should be thinking about Bayis Sheni because that's the time we're period. So I want to show you what Bayis Sheni was a little bit all about. That's really, this is the first of hopefully a series of shiur, but definitely we're hitting on some essential issues. So let's see a pasuk in Ezra. Pasuk says, Ezra of course was the ksuvim of this, Ezra and Nehemiah, that they were as was mentioned, Ezra was the one coming to Eretz Yisrael, Nehemiah. Rabbi Kohanim, Leviim, Rosh Avos Hazakanim, Esher Roas Abayis Harishon Biyosto, Zeh Abayis, Beineim Bochim, B'kol Gadol. So the Zakanim, the older people had seen the Bayis Rishon, when they saw Bayis Sheni, they were crying. It's like you say, this is a Bayis, this is not it. Interesting, V'ravim B'trua, B'simcha L'harim Kol, but there were others that were B'trua, which means, Shofros, and maybe Chatzosos also, and were B'simcha L'harim Kol, and they were dafka raising their voices in great joy. V'ena Makirim B'kol Truas HaSimcha L'kol B'chiam. And it sounded like the crying drowned out the voices of joy. So maybe here it sounds like maybe the trua, kol trua sat simcha, v'kol b'chiki ha'am, maybe trua gedola, kol nishma adlam merchok. It sounds like maybe there were two truas. Okay, but what I want to show from this pasuk is you had an incredible situation in Chorban Bayis. Those that knew what Bayis Rishon were sad. This is it. And those that seen the first Bayis, and the Psikta, the Chazal explains this pasuk a little bit more, and it says specifically the Zakanim saw that there wasn't going to be Shechina, wasn't going to be Shara here. So it was kind of like we would say, like Ikar Chasam in a Sefer. You have a wedding, everybody's happy at the wedding. You don't really, the Chasam's not here. What are you happy for? It's not. This is it. But the younger people who didn't know thought it was like, a lot of times it's like that, but the youngsters are happy in something because they don't have a greater perception, which, by the way, is why it's important. I always say it's very important to be into the door you're into, and I'm very into our door, and I think the door is excellent, but there is also something called Chadesh Yemenu Kikedim. We said this morning, Chadesh Yemenu Kikedim. We renew our days, something called Yeridus Adoros, and knowing where earlier generations were greater than ours. It's a combination, right? You have to live in your generation. Chazal say that. Lo mechach mishal tezos, why someone who lives too much in the past isn't going forward, but you definitely have to have a perception, right? Just, our yeshivas were as good as they were in Europe, right? I mean, we have, we're here in Europe, but we're better than them, that means you don't have any perception, you don't understand anything. If you understand what Slobodka was, you understand what yeshiva is today, you understand what Kelm was, there was nothing like it, etc. That's important, because it pulls a person up. But you have to live in your generation also. But you really see this contrast over here, right? The pasuk in Chagai says, specifically, this is where Chazal start picking up on it, Alu Hahar, they went up on a mountain, Ve'vesem eitz, and they brought wood, Ubana Bayis, Ve'ertzavo, and I was pleased with it, Ve'kabda, and I will be honored, Amar Hashem. Okay? So that pasuk sounds nice. Chagai, of course, the Pash is a reference to Bayis Sheni, Chag Melech Zechariah. These are the final Sofa Nevuah, the Treyaser, right? And part of Anshe Knesset Gdol, that was shaykh to the period of Bayis Sheni, Zechariah, Malachi, Chagai, etc. So it's definitely a reference to Bayis Sheni and it's Chabda. But if you notice, the Kri is Vekhabda, meaning if it would be a haftarah, which I don't know if it's a haftarah anywhere, but if it will be a haftarah, you would read, or when you're reading it, you say a kabda, but it's chaser a hey. The chabed is the ksiv. And then in my computer program, it puts it down. I put the parentheses around. Right? That's what's going on there. That's the chabed, the chabda. So it's lacking a hey. So, the Gemara in Yuma famously picks up on this. Right? You would read a chabed, and it says a chabda. You read it, it's without the hay, but you read it with the hay. So why was the hay missing? Right? And very often there are many, many drushes that we make from the kri and the ksiv. So pay attention to that. Every little nuance in Torah, as was mentioned before. That was a tragedy of translating. Rabbi Schneider was talking about where you don't know where to put the vowelization. No, you don't put where to put punctuation. Right? The Ramban says that the whole Torah Shem is of a Kadosh Baruch Hu with different tzirufim. The Kubal are involved in tzirufim. They can put this letter together with that letter. You read this way. It's all shmos of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's all God's names. That's why every letter in the Torah, that's why we're so makbid on every letter is relevant and significant. Every vav, every hey, so here you see, look, you're picking up on a hey. So my chaser hey, elu chamisha dvarim. Oh, because there are through 5 things. Shayo ben mikdash rishon lemikdash sheni ve'elahin aron v'kaporis v'kruvim. Right, the aron and its covering. The covering of the aron was a stamina. Covering was a kaporis and the kruvim. Eish. Fire, this heavenly fire, Shechina, Ruach HaKodesh, V'Urim V'Tumim. Okay? There's a lot of discussion about all these things, what they are, specifically, but you get the feeling here, there are a lot of Urim V'Tumim. Some say they had the Urim V'Tumim, but they didn't use the Urim V'Tumim. Right? But the Urim V'Tumim was like greater level perception. When the Melech would have a question by Rishon what to do, he would use the Urim V'Tumim. That was the guide. You talk about people today, great Gedolim, something like Yak Kamenetsky was the Urim V'Tumim of American Jewry. That was our terminology for someone who's guiding us, someone who's leading us. So it means your whole guidance system, your whole navigation system, your GPS, the generational GPS was gone. Shechina was incredibly, the Aron is what holds the Heilige Torah. I mean, the Aron has the Luchas Abris, the Kaparis, the Kruvim were the signs of love, right? Everybody knows that, right? The Kruvim, B'Shashayu, when we were close with Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Kruvim would appear connected, like almost like a man and woman, and when we were disconnected, they would be Mitzadet Stude, they would look with each other with the same love. The Kruvim represented a whole relationship. So it's not like, these aren't like side things, Oh, the car just lost some siding, You always want to make sure, like someone like a really fancy car, you don't scratch. My car, you scratch a little bit, okay, look at it, it's not what can you do already? Yeah, you break a wheel, I'll be upset. You take out the engine, okay, right? But here's like the engine, the whole engine was missing. So this is what they were crying about. Okay? By the way, it said the Shemen HaMishcha was also lacking. They didn't have Shemen HaMishcha, the anointing oil. But the Tosar Rosh says, since Bimei Yoshio was already lacking from the end of the Bais Rishon, so we didn't list it. But and Mepharshim say other things that we're listing. So what I want to point out, it wasn't just these 5. These 5 were highlighted. We have answers, but there are other things that were missing also. So Shemen HaMishcha, the anointing oil. Yoshio, by the way, was like 18 years. Yoshio was 18 years before the end of Korban Bayis. So most of the Korban Bayis had it.
How does that answer that they did mention Aaron? Aaron was also hidden by Yoshio.
Good question. Could we go into, there's a lot of, here, you'll make me feel better. For all this I printed out. There's a lot of discussion on this. I don't know. There's a lot of, that's a rush. But there's a lot of discussion about this, which we're not going into. A lot of things to ask. But what we want to get, guys, is the feel here, right? So you get the feel. The Marshal already deals with it a little bit. But the point we're bringing out, fellas, is that you're dealing with a situation of tremendous lack. It's a bias. Definitely. You can't say it's not a bias. It's a base of mikdash. We refer to the bias base of mikdash. We mourn it. We're sad about it. But where we're sitting right now, okay, but a lot was missing. Zakenu Rabocha. This is something that I found. Those are pretty famous sources. I found this when I was learning Sukkah. I mean, Sukkah is not, Daf Yomi's done it a few times, so. But I noted, let's see, source 3. Bishlishi Mayomrim, this was during the days of Sukkot. So we say, Miyakum Alim Mereim, which is the second half of Tzadik Daled, which is what we say on Yom Revi. We'll say this tomorrow morning, but we say it's part of Yom Revi. Miyakum li Mereim. What is the word? So now, Mereim is a confusing word because Mereim sounds like party. Mereim. No, Sudas Mereim. No, that's Sudas Mereim. Mereim here means bad guys. Who can stand me with the bad guys? So during the Simchas Beis Shoeva period, we would have to make a reference to Miyakum li Mereim. Now let's see Rashi. Rashi says, Nir Beinai, Neshe Parshas Miyakum li, Medeberes al Tsarosun. It talks about their difficulty. Shai Meshubad v'Vayisheni. They were Meshubad. They were under how do you translate Meshubad? Oppression of some nature Vayisheni. Tachas. Who are our friends, guys? Who are the Mereim? Right? The Mereim are the bad guys. Malchei Paras. Persians. Oh, okay, good. We got rid of them. Now we're good. Malchei Yavan. You got a little Hanukkah story in there. Malchei Romi. The whole period, the 420 years of Vayisheni was surrounded to a large extent with baddies. Like I was saying about our state, we're living in a bad neighborhood, we're in a bad neighborhood. Eretz Yisrael is a good island in a bad neighborhood, right? Once we spread it out a little bit, it'll be better, right? We'll make those bad neighborhoods we'll make the ghettos rise again. But in the meantime, we live in a bad neighborhood, fellas. So we all know from the Purim story, those fellows in Yeshiva learning Megillah, that the whole Bayit Sheni was created under Koresh, Dayavish, etc. Achashverosh held back the building, Psukim, and as we say, and then it was under that, and there was some continuation to that, right? And then, just like Ashur gave way to Bavel, then Bavel gave way to Paras, right? Then Paras gave way to Yavan. Right, that's kind of, right? And then already we have Alexander coming into Eretz Yisrael itself, 170 years before before Hanukkah story. So before the revolts and all that, the 30, 40 years of Hanukkah, Alexander was the great in Muktan. Okay, it was north of Yavan, but Alexander Muktan, we call him in Chazal, call him the Macedonian. He was a Macedonian, but he was this great spreader of great culture, whether it was in Athens itself or, that's not the point. The point is he represented that, he represented Yavan. He was spreading Yavan ideas. And that means there was an influence of Yavan already coming in. That was the Gemara with Shimon and Tzaddik. Alexander was on his way to destroy, and then he didn't destroy. That's all Gemara and Yuma, but I'm just showing you that Yavan was already had some presence way before the Hanukkah story. And then obviously, till the Hanukkah story happened, and the Hanukkah story wasn't a simple end either, right? There was still something underneath it. So a lot of Vayisheni was under the Yavan influence, and then I didn't get a chance to check this, but the way I cheshbon it in Shabbos, already Rome was already 190 years before Chorban Bayis. That means Chorban Bayis was 70 CE. There was 120 BCE. There was already something going on with Rome, and then the Sanhedrin was batel X amount of time. I worked out that cheshbon. I didn't get a chance to check it, so I'm saying that with some hesitation. But my notes in Shabbos, I think it came out like it was 190 years. So you're talking about an enormous amount of time. And therefore, one of the things we sing, one of the Tilims we say, Dafka, in and relating to Simchas Beis Shoeva is Miyakum li Mereim. Who can stand with me? Like I turn to Kadosh Baruch Hu, like, help me out with these guys. Help me Hashem live in my neighborhood. Let's continue to Rashi. Shibnei, I'll read again. Nir Beinai. Why do we read that to him? Neshe Parshas Miyakum li Medeberes al Tsarosun Shei Meshubad v'Vayisheni Tachas Malchei Paras Malchei Yavam Malchei Romu V'Afal Pikein in no, but we don't stop. All that's not going to stop us. Afal Pikein Einan Nimnoim Milismoach B'Simchas Malcham. We're still happy with you, Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? So it's not like it was a Bayis Rishon. It's not like it was in the good days of Shlomo Melech. We got Mereim here. We're going to be happy anyway. Umispalim, miyakum lanu latinim in Mereim ha'elu. Lule Hashem hazratali. Kimat shachnan duma nafshi. This is a continuation of the Psukim. If Hashem hadn't helped us, if I say that my leg stumbles, Chatzdecha Hashem, Yisadeni, God, Kadosh Baruch Hu will hold me up. Sarapai b'kirbi tanchumi shashu nafshi. Kolomar, af lafitzar aseno, even according to the source, einanu nimnaim milavo lishtasheh betanchumecha. That's all Mizmor. Incredible. So the whole Mizmor, right? It's like, different times encapsulate the period. So, Tim, I believe it's Tzadik Daled, but you'll see, it's Shir Shayom, the second half of Shir Shayom of Wednesday, encapsulates the period. What was it? Kadosh Baruch Hu, we're having Simcha Apal Pikein. Even so, right? Incredible. So, both say the picture we get until now, through source 1, 2, and 3. And these are solid sources. I mean, this is slam dunks. This is not like a diak in episode, I'm going to learn this pasuk in some very novel way. It sounds like Bayesheni was not so I. But now we get to the second half of this year. And we'll start with the Yalkut Shimoni. Now we're going back, Doris arose, Melechus HaMishkan. That was, of course, when did the Melechus HaMishkan start? That started after Yom Kippur. This is the Graz Cheshbon, right? Moshe Rabbeinu comes down in Yom Kippur, Luchas Shnias. He says on the 11th, we're building the Mishkan. They build 12th and the 13th. They drilled stuff on the 12th and the 13th. The 14th, first and only time in history, a fundraiser said, enough, stop bringing, die, enough. And the 15th, they start building the Mishkan. Okay? The 15th, they start building the Mishkan. What comes back then? Agav, I can't stop myself from saying a side point. The Anane Kavod. And that's why, according to the Graz Cheshbon, the celebration of Sukkot is a celebration of the Anane Kavod coming back. And that's why we do Sukkot on the 15th of Tishrei. Not like the Torah says it. Really, we should celebrate it if it's against the regular Anani Kavod of the clouds of glory of leaving Mitzrayim. So you should have done it then. So the Torah, which the Mishnah brings an answer, is a nice solid shot teretz. That but if you did it then, people would say you're sitting in huts for shade. But when it's a little bit cold, we see we're doing it for the mitzvah. But really, Sukkot should have been next to Pesach. But according to the Graz Meduyik, it's Dafka on the 15th of Tishrei, because it's not because of those Anani Kavod. It's because the Anani Kavod that came back, which left, when did they leave, Rabosai? They left at, Cheregel. They left at Cheregel. So really, it's a whole different celebration. Sukkot, according to the Gemara, is a celebration of coming back. It's not just a Kadosh Baruch Hu helped us in the midbar. Right? It's that we came back to Kadosh Baruch Hu, which that fits the theme of Yom Kippur. Not for now, but that's just one. But both sides. So they start building the Mishkan on the 15th of Tishrei. Okay? When did the Mishkan go up?
Nisan.
The 1st of Nisan. That's why the 1st of Nisan is a special time, and then that's when the Korbanos of the Nesiim, which we happen to read on Hanukkah, that's why we read that, and that's why we don't say Tachnun the whole Chag, because we have 12, 13 days of that, and then we have 7 days of Pesach, Isur Chag, 8 days of that. Now, once most of the month goes out in that way, so then you don't say Tachnun the whole month. That's why we don't say Tachnun the whole month of Pesach, because of Hakamas HaMishkan, right, which started with the Mei Milum, which is the 23rd. Okay, but here's the news, guys. They were ready on the 25th of Kislev to put up the Mishkan. Everything was done. Means you could have thought that we worked from the 15th of Tishrei for 5 months until after Purim time, right? There's no Purim yet. It's probably somewhere in Yisod said the Arm, but right? And now 5 months later, ready? No, they were ready already. A month and a half after 40 days. About 40 days, they're ready to put up the Mishkan. Why didn't they? Let's see the Mishkan. Let's see the Yalkut Shimoni. Guys, nothing to do with Hanukkah yet. Okay? It happened to be the 25th of Kislev, they finished Melechus HaMishkan. Vasa Mekupal ad Echa B'Nisan, they were Mekapel it, they folded it up. Right? Whatever that meant to fold it up. They stored it at Echa B'Nisan. K'moshe Kazav, Yom HaChodesh HaRishon, Bechad HaChodesh, Takim at the Mishkan. Vayisro Mimalim al Moshe Loimar Lama Lo Hukum Miyad. Moshe, what are you doing? Right? Jewish people sometimes love to question their leaders. Huh? Shema Dofi Iraba. Maybe something bad happened? Like, what's up? We've been working. Imagine, you're working on the building. This happens. You work on the building. Like, what happened? What happened to the Dan Pearl? Does anybody know? One of the nicest hotels in Yerushalayim. I spent 2 days over there, Pesach and Shabbos. They're right there on the outskirts of the old city. And you get off, you go a little bit past Kikar Safra on your way to the hotel. You walk to the right. There's a beautiful hotel. What happened to it? I don't know. Shemadofi Yuribo. I don't know what happened to it. I had some nice times in that hotel. I don't know what happened to it. You know what I'm talking about? You didn't even know that it's there. There's a hotel there. If you ever take the shuttle down to the hotel, Take the train and then the shuttle? You guys walk straight, but mamish 15 meters from where you walk, there's a, you'll notice next time. It used to be called the Dan Pro, there's some stores on the bottom. Shema Dofi Irbo. V'kadosh Baruch Hu Chashav L'Erev Simchas. V'kadosh Baruch Hu Chashav L'Avras. Now why? Why did they do that? Kadosh Baruch Hu Chashav L'Arev Simchas HaMishkan B'chodesh Nolo B'Yitzchak. Oh, no. Hashem says, yeah, we could put up the Mishkan in Kislev, yeah, but I don't want to. You know why? Because I want to be ma'arev that joy. I want to mix Erev Shabbos, L'Arbev, Kotel L'Arevim. I want to mix the joy of Hakamas HaMishkan with latest Yitzchak. When was Yitzchak born? In Nisan. D'chsiv Lushi Basugos, V'amar Shuv Ashov Elecha. Okay? So that was Pesach time, and he's coming back. We're getting to our point in a second, gentlemen. Yeah? Good? So that was the cheshbon. So just you should know. It's important to know. The Mishkan was ready to be put on the 25th of Kislev. Why did it? Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to do a Hakamas HaMishkan together with what? Yitzchak. Not our point. Back to our point. Me'ata hifsik Kislev. So Kislev lost out. Shenigbar bo'o malacha. Kama. Omer Kadosh Baruch Hu alay l'shalim. I have to give back to Kislev. Ma shalom Kadosh Baruch Hu? Chanukas Chashmonoi. The Chanukah of the Chashmonoi. The redoing of the Beis HaMikdash in that. Now, both say, listen carefully. The shorish of everything is the Mishkan, right? Mishkan, Mikdash, sometimes we learn Psukim even one to the other. The shorish of the Mishkan, the shorish of the Mishkan, the shorish of the whole Beis HaMikdash is the Mishkan, right? That makes sense? We can hear that. There are proofs that I heard that you saw from Moshe Shapiro. You see it in Psukim. Sometimes we call it Mishkan, sometimes we call it Mishkan. Right? We learn one thing from the other. Although they are separate binyanim, definitely totally different binyan. One was a moving binyan, and one was what's it called? Transitory, and one's fixed. So obviously different. But the shorish, the root of whole Beis HaMikdash is. Now I understand. That's what you give back to Kislev. That's what you give back. Chanukah Hashmonaim, the middle of this low period. Kadosh Baruch Hu is coming to give. This is my insight. Yeah, that's the matana. You want to be mashlim to Kislev? Do justice. Do justice is something in the bias rishon, the real bias, the great bias, not a bias sheni, not in the tekufa miyakum li mereim. Not in the Halol Bochim, in this period. Let's go on. That's just a kind of introduction. Now, Rabosai, here's our key source. Chagai Perik Beis Pasuk Tes. Gadol Yiyeh Kohen Habayis Hazeh Achar Min Harishon. The honor of this house will be greater than the honor of the first house. Amar Shem Tzom goes. Umbakam Hazeh, in this place Atein Shalom. Yes, in this place I'm going to give peace. Now, Rabosai, you told me you forgot the Metzudas David. I didn't, and I'm going to read it to you. Habayis ha'akar and Ratzon Lomer Habayis ha'asid. No, Chagai is suddenly referring to the third temple. Shetama Makam Hazeh, Min Harishon and Bayis Bana Shlomo. So listen carefully. Says the Metzudas David, which is an outstanding parish, right? And definitely a Pashut Pshat parish. Outstanding. It's one of the basic parushim you learn when you learn that. Metzudas David, Metzudas Tziyam, the same person. The house will be greater, the Achron and Rishon. What's Achron, what's Rishon? Achron is by Shlishi. That's going to be the greatest. What's Rishon? Second house. Okay, so that doesn't disrupt our world. But what does disrupt our world is that there are other Perushim that are not like that, like Rashi. And it says it's referring to Bayesheni. Rashi, Gadol Rabbi Schoonmaker bebinyan v'chadam b'shanim. One says the bias of the Beis HaMikdash Sheni is going to be greater in its built. The house is going to be built. V'chadam b'shanim. Sheshnei bati rishon. I know what that Sheni is. Bias rishon arba meo v'eser. Because Bias Rishon Rabosai is 410 years lasted, and Bias Sheni lasted longer, 420 years. Okay? Now look at the Radak. V'chein hayagadol bebinyan. K'mo shechaseh b'divrei Razal, u'b'sefer Yosef ben Gurion, ki habinyan shabana hordas b'beis HaMikdash, lo nir me'olam binyan tov v'nah kamo. It was the nicest building that ever was. So Gadol Yiyeh Kod Habayis Achram and Arishon, there are aspects already in Psukim, in Chagai. By the way, Chagai Bapashtus is referring to Bayesheni. You understand? The Metzudas David is a Chiddush in Pshat, because Chagai was being misnab on Bayis Sheni in general. Yeah, it's not a pure. I'm not blowing away the Metzudas David, but we understand where Rashi's coming from. Where's Metzudas David coming from? What do you mean? I read the first part of Schoonmaker's Shir, said the Metzudas David. I forgot what his name was. Right? You're telling me this house is Gadol? The Bayis Sheni is Gadol from the Bayis Rishon? No. Ella, it's referring to the Asab Bayis Shlishi. That's greater, for sure. But Rashi and Chazal, quoting Chazal, don't learn that way. The Radak doesn't learn that way. Everybody say, so already we already see Bayis Sheni coming back. Now I want to show you the next line in Radak, super important. This I only learned last night. The kernel this year I've had in my head for a long time. But I looked up the Psukim a little bit. As you can see, anybody who wants to see a lot more Psukim, I have many pages of them, many before I'm going into this topic. But here's the Radak. Etein sham afal bishayu milchamas rabbas was man Bayis Sheni. Zman rab hayishalom ba'aretz. There was a lot of peace also. So it's true. On one level, definitely is miyakam li yimareim. Who's going to help? I'm in a bad neighborhood. But the pasuk is also made lefi gedolim mefarshim, right? Or the Rashi Radak, that shalom etei baretz. There's going to be matzah of shalom and a matzah of godless also. So it's not so pashut. It's like we use a key word, Rabosai, which is unavoidable. Bechinas. There are aspects. There are definitely aspects of Bayis Rishon which far outdid Bayis Sheni. But there are aspects where Bayis Sheni Dafka had a greatness and a shalom, etc. And I will go deeper, Rabosai. Okay, so this is, until now, listen carefully, we would say, those are chitzoni things. You could say, until now, we could say that the only Maila Bayis Sheni had was in chitzoni. It's like, I'll give you an example. Let's say an old Belzer, right, sees the building. I don't know if the building they have now, I don't think the building they had in good old Bells, I'm sure it was special. I don't think it compares to what they have today on the skyline of Jerusalem, right? That is a phenomenal building. I mean, Bells should live until obvious called Tzaddik Mamash, Varach all the good to Yidden, and it's a wonderful Hasidus. It doesn't need my Haskama, but I imagine that if they had to sell it, it would be probably worth about $60 million or something, maybe $80 million, that building. It's something incredible. There are yeshivas there, there's a dormitory there's simcha halls there are libraries there are Bati Midrashas there, there's a angel there. It's something, there's a Kavish Stiebel, you used to be able to get free coffee there. It's something incredible. Yeah, it is an incredible building. Now, I would imagine that the building of Bells in good old Europe was not as outstanding a building, my guess. But I imagine if I ask an old Belzer Chassid who had been there, I don't know if any of them are, right? It's already, 80 years since it has been. They might have said, yeah, but you don't get it. The Panemius, I don't care about the building. Okay, we use nicer stone for the building in Jerusalem than old Bells. But our old Bells building was soaked with all the Kedusha Bells, this Kedusha, the Sar Shalom, the Kedusha of Yisachar Dov, you can't compare them, right? So, meaning to say, we're seeing in the Mefarshim and Chagai a godless, which is a chitzoni godless, right? Yes? Years, 10 more years, 10 out of 41 is 2.5%. It was 2.5% longer. It was a more beautiful building built by Hortus. Hortus wasn't the greatest figure. Yeah, okay. It's good. It's fine. But now, we're going to see in the following Mefarshim, and there are a lot of more sources I'm about to say, something which is incredible. There were Giluyim, Atsumim, in Bayis Sheni, that weren't in Bayis Rishon. That's what I want to show you now. And one of the beautiful source on this is, of course, the Hemek Davar, the Netziv. Let's read the whole Netziv together. As you see, we should be going another 10 minutes and 15 minutes. Don't be nervous, I know people are tired. Ela Inyan, but this is worth it. The Ora Torah shu tachlis mishkan. Right, guys, what's the tachlis of everything? Vikar hamasha shechina b'Yisrael. Vikar tachlis is the light of Torah. What are we coming to produce? The light of Torah. That's the tachlis of the Mishkan. And the thing which puts shechina b'Yisrael. Ba b'shefa yedem tzol shnei klei HaKodesh. There are two kelim which bring Shechina down. Hainu ha'aron v'menorah. The aron, the ark, and the menorah. The nishtanu pulasem, they work differently. It's gavaldik. Ha'aron ba'aliyud hadibru shebiksav v'gam l'tziva b'kabal ba'al peh. The aron, think about it. The aron is a set thing. And what's housed in it? Torah shebiksav. Right? That represents the mahalach of Torah shebiksav. There are things which are set. Here's the set law. Included in that is the Kabbal's Baal Peh. Right? But we know, like we would say, Halach Moshe Sinai. There was a Torah which is fixed, which is static, which never changes, as is. V'adayin ein b'zeh koach ha'pilpul v'achiddush. But if the Aron, there's no koach, there's no pilpul, there's no chiddush, there's nothing happening there. Right? I'm going to come up with a new insight that no one ever said before. Uluzeh koach ha'nifla sh'nikra Talmud. Nitan koach ha'menorah. Asher nichlal bo sheba chachmas. V'chol kochas ha'nidrus l'pupul shel Torah. The Aron, the menorah was about what we do. The menorah was the menorah of Torah Sheba'al Peh. Right? In a general way, you can say the Aron and the Luchas represents Torah Shebichsav, and the menorah represents Torah Sheba'al Peh, the Koach HaChiddush. And by the way, beautifully, that's why it represents 7 wisdoms. Because to be Shalim in Torah to be Torah Shalim, the Talmud Chacham Shalim, right, has to know Sheva Chachmas also, as the Gra said. In the Hagdama, it's brought, anything you're lacking in math, you can be lacking many things in Torah, as it brought down in the Hagdama to Pasa Shulchan. It's Kavaldi that the menorah has the Tzim is pointing out, the remiss to that. Every little aspect of menorah represented that. Ad the Isa Bereshis Rabbah Perik Tzadok Alf Rabbi Tarfa B'Shoshay Shomed Davar Metukan. When guys, what do you say? Here we say psh, right? In our generation we say psh. What was the psh of early generations? You know, what was Kafta Referach. Rabbi Tarfa would say Kafta Referach. Like now we say Dalad. I don't know if you've ever seen this forum, guys. Dalad Pei Chet Chet. Divrei Pi Chacham Chen. That's the Shemi Shmuel. Oh, it's called his father. Divrei Pi Chacham Chen. It's a pasuk, right? So you say like, Nifla or Moradik or Gavaldik. What do you guys say? What Shkoyach. Shkoyach is like Shkoyach. Now, what do you guys? What in the secular world? What do you say if you do something good? Awesome. Sick, right?
Fire,
right? They say light, lit. It's lit. I heard lit. That was a nice one. Lit is a good one. So what did Rabbi Tarfon say? You know what he said? Kaptor v'ferach. That's what he said. Why? Why was the davar metukin in Torah kaptor v'ferach? Because Rabbi Tarfon wasn't stam psh and sicking and litting. He was mechuven. He was going back to the menorah. That which you're saying a good pshat is linked in the menorah. So that's in the Tziz B'kiyas that he brought things like that down. But right, the siyach. What?
What is those words mean, Prophet?
Kaptor v'ferach were different on the menorah. There were like cups and symbols. And look at a picture of the menorah. I don't have one. I can bring it up. But there's actual pieces of the menorah. There was the basic menorah. Flowers and knobs. Right, the flowers and knobs. So that's what you say. Try that next time your Rebbe says, if Rabbi Silberg says a good word, say, flowers and knobs. V'siach rabban shel Yisrael lamdenu ba. Right? Shetalmid vasig mechadish davar tov. Why he was coming to tell you. You know where you got that from? You got that from the Kapter Ferach Shel Menorah. Okay, Al Kain. So both say that's not a tremendous idea. Don't get turned off when you learn the base of Mikdash, guys. Don't get turned off from any part of Torah. Just say it's going to take time. You know the stories. Vayikra. No, Karbonas. Guys, that's the way of Amratzis. But Talmid Chachamim, Bani Talmid Chachamim is interesting. I don't know everything now. I'll learn a little bit. Kobitz al Yad Yarba, right? Menorah. It's Kalim. No. There's the Aron and the Menorah. They both represent Torah. The Shulchan is what does the Shulchan represent? Parnasa. Parnasa is also Chashiv, right? Parnasa comes from the Shulchan. Very Chashiv. Right? That's super Chashiv. You need Parnasa. But that's the Parnasa. But the Aron and the Menorah are about Torah. Aron is Torah Shebechsav, Kmohu. And the menorah is about Torah Sheba'al Peh, the Koach HaChiddush. I'm just adding, Rebbe. Also, you see the light flickers and stuff like that. It's an ongoing process. Hatamas and Eris is the whole mitzvah of emptying out the oil, putting in the oil, and how you make the nace and making the wicks and all that, adding the oil, lighting it. Meribah Boker it was a live thing, flickering, live, light, all that. Okay, and in general, by the way, just in Torah that you have that. You have people who are more we have the Gemara about Oker, we discussed the other day in Shir, there's Oker Harim and there's Sinai, right? So someone who's an unbelievable Baal Mechadish, but he knows less, someone who's an unbelievable knows when the other people Moshe finds it was everything, but a lot of days someone who's a very, very big Lamdan, and you have a very big Baki, there's different Kochas. That's more of a Torah Shvichsav Dikakach, that's more Torah Shabbal Ped Dikakach. You need both, but they're different Kochas, right? Some certain people, like he's like an encyclopedia, but he's not necessarily going to have the deepest pshat. Someone else might have a deep shot, but he might be wrong because he doesn't know. Those are two kochas in learning. Now we're getting to Rabosai. But Bayis Sheni, I want to add, and I Baruch Hashem was zoket a little bit of a chiddush I'm going to share with you. I'll give Bayis Sheni Sherobi Yeshivas V'midu Talmidim Harbe. During Bayis Sheni, Dafka, that's what it was. Guys, why was the Nes Chanukah? Again, we're not saying Shir and Chanukah. We're talking about Bayis Sheni. Obviously, the central aspect of Bayis Sheni, one of them was the Chanukah period. That's why the Koch HaMenorah was being challenged, and that's why it was redeemed. Because that's what was going on in Bayis Sheni. Bayis Sheni, as opposed to Bayis Rishon. Then Tziv says it elsewhere. I didn't quote that source, right? Tziv says elsewhere, during Bayis Rishon, there wasn't as much Pilpul Torah. It was much more, listen carefully, the whole Mahalach of Bayis Rishon was a Mahalach of Torah Shebetzav more. It was set, it was known, here's the Masorah, here's the Kabbalah, this is what you do, Sanhedrin, everybody's passing, it's all clear. But there wasn't as much a Koch HaPilpul. There wasn't as much the light of the menorah. There wasn't much the Oreganas. That whole Mahalach that we live with today wasn't open. Yeah? Okay, Bayis Sheni Sherobi Yeshivas V'midu Talmidim Harbe La Bayis Devai V'Rava Shua Talmud Shemachin Nischazik Koch HaMenorah Yidei Nes Chanukah. Okay? And that's what he says at the end. Shaharo Shem B'cholom Yitzapalum Ora Torah. And someone who sees, if you see Ravosai, it says if you see oil in your dreams, Mitzapal Chachma, you're going to have the Ora Torah. That's the Ora Torah. Now, Bosai, I want to tell you something else. Listen to this. I saw Rabbeinu B'chai last night when I was looking around. Rabbeinu B'chai says, at the end of the day, it's interesting. If we go back to that pasuk in Chagai, right? Alnu hahar bevesim eitz ubono bais ve'eretz bo vechabed. So Rabbeinu B'chai, a Rishon, a solid Rishon says vechabed means what? There was epesam shechina there. What was the covet? Kadosh Baruch Hu, I was pleased with. It's interesting. Dafka there, where we're learning out, everybody knows, it's a shame. That's why you have to learn things in a shlemistic way. Everybody knows 5 things were lacking in Bayis Sheni. What pasuk was it from? It was a pasuk which was saying, Eretzabo, I'm going to be appeased with this house. I'm going to be pleased with it, and I'm going to be honored with it. And Rabbeinu B'chai says the honor was that there was some Shechina. So it is missing a hay. So there are aspects where it's missing. The clarity was missing. The Aron was missing. The clear Ruach HaKodesh was missing. The clear Nevuah was missing. Yeah? It was ending. But the Hadas Nechoshma Divrei Chachamim, the Chacham Adav Minavi. You guys know that? But a Chacham is Adav Minavi. A Chacham has a Bechina where he's Adav Minavi. I'll share from a Chassidus source. I told my share. What's a pshat a Chacham is Adav Minavi? They're different pshatim. How could a wise man be better than a Navi? Because a Navi gets his Nevuah time to time. In the Torah Shabbal Peh, there's something called the hidden light, the primordial light, the Oreganas. The Oreganas is there. This is the Bnei Yisachar. And the Chacham, when he's learning Torah, is always connecting to the Oreganas. The Navi can get a Nevuah. His Nevuah is more grand. It's more clear. It's more Bayis Rishon dik. It's more Torah Shabbat dik. There's not as much doubt about it, right? When you go to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, how does he know that? When you went to a Navi, you didn't have a doubt about it. Or Reb Chaim Kanievsky, if you had a Bunus Chacham and people went to, But he was connected all the time. That was like an Oreganas dik a thing. So Chacham Adav Minavi, because the frequency of his Gilui, of what's coming out from him, is much more. Not just on a mathematical way. I learned in a mathematical way. I can bring proofs, things like that. The emissary, Chacham Yisrael Amitim, right? Liban Shel Yisrael, Chazanish, they had a higher level connection. There was a connection to Oreganas, there was a connection to the menorah. It's Kapter B'Ferach. And that is Chacham Adav Minavi. So that, guys, that's a pshat. There was Shechina in Bayis Sheni. There wasn't the same level, but there was a level of Shechina, and I'm trying to show you, this is the pshat, guys. Gadol Yeh Kavod Abayis Azachar Min Rishon means it not just in the Shanim and the Binyan. That's in the Pashtus. That's the pshat. Which, it's on a pneumistic level. There was a Gilui Atzum that was, in this time, that wasn't a Bayis Rishon. Of Chacham Adav Minavi. Of Mikan Be'elach Shema, Chazal say, now Avodah Zarah goes down, Nevuah goes down, that Mahalach of clarity is down, but now, listen to the Chachamim, the Mahalach Chacham is up. And that's why It is. That's why we asked in the Alkut Shimoni in source 4. That's the Nechama? I was supposed to be, the Mishkan was supposed to, the source of it all was supposed to go up on the 25th of Kislev. And it doesn't go up. What's the Nechama? What's the Nechama? Bayis Sheni, 200 years into Bayis Sheni, in the midst of the Seleucid Egyptian Hellenists, that war, that's what you're giving me? Chanukah Sechashmonoim? Yeah, because that on a certain level is higher than what's happening by Bayis Rishon, on a certain level. That's what we use the word, that's what we have to use the word Bechinas. Now guys, maybe you'll say, oh come on. So I left my ringer for the end. Read it and weep. This source is just off the charts. It's from Heichalos. This actually is a Kabbalistic source, okay, out of my pay grade, but it's brought down in books that are in my pay grade. And listen to this. Amar Bishmol, Kach Amar Bikiv Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, Miyom Shenim Torah, Ad Shenimna Bayis Achron, until Bayis Sheni, Torah Nina, but Hadara Lo Nina, the beauty of Torah hadn't been given yet. The Ikara, the Gdulasa, and its value and its greatness, V'Tiferet Shela, Amita, Pachta, Yirasa, Ateres Gausa, V'Gaona, Ziva, Zivyusa, Uza, Vizuza, Memshalta, Gurasa, Lo Ninu. Yeah, there was Torah, but it wasn't fully lit. It wasn't there till now. Chazal Mefurish. Look at those words. Miyom Shnin Torah Ad Shenivna Bayis or Achron Torah Nidna. But yeah, there was Torah, but there were Giluyim Atzumim. There was something happening by Sheni that hadn't happened yet. I forgot to say. Here's what my Chedushim will say. Who's the best? Who has the best? Which types of human beings have the best listening?
Listening?
Yeah.
Babies.
Nice.
I think they're always listening, right?
Nice. Women. Interesting.
That's the answer.
Which, okay. You have to either. Who hears the best?
Huh?
The people, I'll give you a hint. The people who hear the best and the people who see the best are the opposite.
Oh, the blind hear the best.
The blind hear the best.
Okay, yeah.
The blind hear the best. Right? You ever heard that? Because when one koch goes down, the other koch has to be gaber. So I wanted to add to the Netziv that dafka when the Aron was away, so the koch of menorah burst out. Just like a blind man hears on a whole different level, right? The menorah was in Bayis Rishon for sure, but now there's no Aron. Now koch menorah is being mashpia b'SSA, so I'm carrying the day. It's all my team, whatever that means spiritually, right? But guys, you see that. Miyoshin, this source always, it's so moving. It's worth coming to yeshiva to hear this source, or both sides. Miyoshin Torah, Achinim the Bayis Achron, that means, guys, all those years, until Bayis Sheni, Torah Nina, but Hadar Lo Nina, the Ikar Gdulasa, Tifar Teshlah, a Masa Pachta Yirasa, we don't know these things in, right? Ateres Gusa, Gaona, Ziva, Zivasa, Uza, Vizuza, Memshali, Guras Lo Nina, Achinim the Bayis Achron, Visharta, Vishchina. Until Bayis Achron, and there was Shechina there. That all is Shechina. The Netziv told us, the Iker Shechina is for Bayis, is about Torah. Right? Bate Ginzei Bate Osois ain't called ever Chaser Behem. Right? Amri Mishal Osichem, tell me, V'ninilchem, tell me what you want. V'tavis Namshichem. I skipped a little bit of, you see the three dots. Miyam tells it, Ki ein eis ke'eis hazos. There's no time like this time. There's no epic like this, there's no time like this. This is the time. Ani yodei ma atem mevakshim. I know what you're looking for. V'libi hikir matem metamim. Tor meruba tem mevakshim. You want a lot of Torah. V'amon Talmud. Nach. More and more we say in Yiddish. V'rov shmuas. L'shol Allah atem etzapim. V'lamon razai atem machmid. You want secrets. L'harbos harim. To make great mountains. L'avlos shia givus givos. L'agdil Talmud b'chutza pilpul b'rechovos. You want to learn on an unbelievable level. L'harbos halacha kol hayam. And making halachas like the sea, like the sands of the sea. V'razai kafras table, and my secrets are going to come out. Loshi yeshivas v'shari olim l'farish ma'isra v'heta l'tami ba'az l'tami l'tar satar. Incredible. Rabosai. So that's it. That's the biggest shot. I've heard this idea of Gadol Yad. I remember, I think maybe I heard Rabbi Yom said, David, I can't put on someone, but this is my shot. I'll pee these sources. Gadol yeh kavod abayis achar ben rishon is this. In the Iker Gili of Torah, the Iker Gili of the Menorah, what we do, what Torah Shapell, our whole life, we live a Bayis Sheni Dika life. So that's it, sir. Both say. So on the one hand, all the sources are true. Yeah, there is a Makam B'chiyah. By the way, I always learned the Sikta until now that the Zekanim were crying, and the young people were called Trua, and they were wrong. We'd say, you youngster. No, you know what? Sometimes youngsters have the better perception than the old people. They see the potential in something. So that would be a different way of learning that. That would be a different way of learning that those first Psukim in Ezra. Pshat one is just, this Canaan had it right, and the young people were mixed up, so they're happy with the house because they're happy with anything. Give them anything. They don't know the difference. No, it could be that the young people are omid on the omic of what's going on. They see the potential over here. They see the beginnings of Bayis Sheni. They know what this house could be. They're not bound by their. I'm not putting down old people, or both say God forbid. I'm just saying every tekuva has something, right? The young people aren't bound by the old perceptions. Yeah, okay, it's not the way it could be. We can rebuild. Lahabdil. So they have a sports club. Like, we can't know, okay, it's time to get rid of that quarterback, time to get a new quarterback. We'll rebuild, and it's going to be better. So that maybe is another way to learn. But either way, we're both saying, definitely there's definitely Bayis Rishon shown in its glory in a way which Bayis Sheni didn't. Definitely. And there was a makom for Bechia, and there was a makom for Choser, right? But there was also a unbelievable Yulim Bayis Sheni. Yeah? Unbelievable Yulim. And I just want to finish and say, and it's like that in many, many tekuvas. We're both saying, there were times when, we don't always know when it is, but there are times when there's a Gilui in later generations that wasn't there. The Arizal was Megala something new. It wasn't that my son pointed out to me one time, almost no one is cholik on their Arizal. You don't have anybody like that. People cholik on the Rambam, they're cholik on the Shulchan Aruch, no one's cholik on the Arizal. What happened? There were Giluyim Atzumim that came out. And not the same level. I can't say that about our generation because I don't believe it. I don't know it, but I do believe that we're doing special things in our generation also. Every generation is the Rosham loves us. You know what I'm saying? And every point in history and every point in your life has different things. There are times when you shine and you see this is what it's about, and times when you don't shine, that was really a bad time. It was a bad time on the outside, but really your development during that difficult period, during those dark times, during that Tavis, during that, was amazing. So, Bayis Sheni is a tremendous message to us that something on one hand is very, very dark, compared to Miyakum Li Mareim, like Rashi's saying, we're just okay, we're surrounded with Bavel, we're surrounded with Parah, surrounded with Yaman, surrounded with Romi. No, Avabikin, L'chaim. But that's one level of it, and that's a true level, and that's a true feeling, sure. But on a deeper level, there's something incredible happening here, which didn't happen ever, and that's a great model for us in our lives to look for. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.